Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is Praveen here. I hope you guys are extremely doing good. So this is day 4 of week 1 free DevOps and SRE course, both for freshers and experienced, right? So let's go ahead and see like what is there for you in day 4. So basically in day 4, you will be watching or listening with me the Kubernetes custom resource definitions. Very much important. What are CRDs in Kubernetes? One of the 5-star interview question, right? And people generally go into deep about this, and one should be able to understand like what exactly this CRD is all about, right? I hope you will be with me till the end of this video. Also, we will be doing a project in the coming days on the custom resource definition, which will be like very small project, but you will understand like what exactly this custom resource definition is. So stay tuned, watch the video till the end, like the video, and comment down if you have any questions going ahead. So let's go ahead. And this is my YouTube channel, as you all know, and this is the dedicated Telegram channel where you will find all the documents and important links and the data for this 30 days course. And this is my Instagram. You all can follow me here. And this is my website. If you want to check any of the other content, right, other quality content, you can check out here. So let's go ahead and start our day 4, right? And let me close this. Yes. So slide number 1, you will be able to see like what exactly this custom resource definition is. And many of you would have observed in day 1, we were talking about API slash V1 beta 1, right? So these all extensions or whatever the API endpoints you would have seen in the day 1, those all extensions were outdated. But here, if you see whatever the extensions are there with the group related, right? Those are, you can consider like these all are running. Few of them might be here and there changed, but most of them are the same, right? Now, what is Kubernetes API? As you all know that there is a API server in Kubernetes, which actually talks with the people with the help of kubectl command, and it redirects the traffic to the control plane or control node, which we have already seen in our day 2, right? Now, if you have seen, the core of the Kubernetes control plane is API server, and the API server exposes an HTTP API, right? Hypertext Transfer Protocol API, application programming interface, that lets end users different parts of your cluster. So basically, it helps our users to access the cluster, access the pods, which are there in the worker nodes, right? Pods are there, nodes are there, pods are there, some config maps are there, secrets are there, any kind of data this API server helps us to access, right? And it is also telling that this API server exposes various kinds of endpoints, right? Endpoints are nothing but, let's take, I given a simple example, right? www. You can say like praveensingampalli.com/hello. So what is hello here? This is like simple endpoint of this URL, right? Similarly, if you see what are the endpoints present and what are the groups present, you will be able to understand there are various groups in Kubernetes. One is admission registration.ksgh.io, API extensions. This we will talk in a little bit of time when you want to extend your Kubernetes API. So this entire 30 minutes of class will be based on this, how you can extend your API based on a few of the resources which you need to create. Let's take, I want to have API. So here you are not seeing anything like praveen.singham.io. Let's create that praveen.singham.io, right? This is one group. And let's create like, you can consider like V1 slash Praveen, right? We can create this kind of versions also, right? So at the end, you need to understand when we talk about custom resource definitions. So basically extending the Kubernetes API, extending the API and resources, right? And resources, right? Resources in the sense your pod you have, your node you have, right? Apart from this, if you want to have any kind of special resource for your project, right? I will give you examples also. You can use custom resource definition. Now you see API extensions.ksgh.io, which is V1 version, API registration.ksgh.io, which is V1 versions, apps V1 version, authentication.ksheets.io, v1, v1 beta 1, v1 alpha 1. Authorizations, basically this is for RBAC. This API group is for RBAC, auto scaling group, and you will see so many things, right? RBAC.authorization.ksheets.io, this is again for RBAC. Authorizations.ksheets.io is also for RBAC. This is for resource scheduling storage, right? Now, and yes, obviously networking. So you need to understand a very basic component here. Whenever you see that there is a call kubectl get pods, kubectl delete pods, all the things goes via this groups and the versions. Now, a very simple thing I would like to explain you here. So API discovery, how this Kubernetes will know like what type of request it is coming and what type of request response it should give. A list of group versions supported by a cluster is published at /API and /APIs. So very, very much important. And you see each group version also advertise the list of resources supported via. So you see /API/ if you have seen like group is here, right? Group is here and there is a version also. So this is what the basic fundamental block or the design architecture of the APIs of Kubernetes is defined. I'll be showing you as we go ahead, like what exactly the APIs will look like in the Kubernetes, right? And you will see, for example, APIs /RBAC.authorization.ksheets.io /v1/alpha1. Now, what is the two endpoints that the resources are published? API and APIs, right? So you see APIs, RBAC.authorization.ksheets.io is coming from this group, right? There is a predefined group, right? RBAC.authorization.ksheets.io, and this authorization group is having something like, if you see, there is a what is that, v1 or v1 alpha 1, anything you can take it according to the availability, right? So that is what the important thing you need to understand, like this entire endpoint or your resource, you can call like resource calling, happens via this one, APIs /groups. Any group you can use it out of this available groups, right? And /v1/alpha 1, which is your versions basically, right? So this is what you need to understand, like what exactly your API discovery means. So this entire component forms an important structure in your Kubernetes. I hope you are understanding. So just understand, whenever you are asking for anything, let's take, you want resources, right? Resource.ksheets.io, RBAC, policy, node, kubectl get node. So basically it will come from this group, right? So let's go to the next slide. I hope I am making it sense. If you have any questions, any queries, comment down in the comment section, right? So as you go ahead in the slide 2, you will be able to understand like what exactly this resources are. Now in Kubernetes, in hands-on, when we go and see the RBAC hands-on, you will understand when you hit kubectl space API -resources, you will get an entire structure like this. Now you need to understand there is a name, API resources, basically bindings, your config maps, endpoints, events, limit ranges, namespaces, nodes, persistent volumes, claims, pods. Now you need to understand these are resources in Kubernetes, which is helping us to access various kinds of events or details. Now you see short names. You remember we see like kubectl get NS. So when you use NS, it is indirectly interacting with your namespace, right? You remember you use namespace. Now that is where this is the short form of your API resources. Now what is API version? You can say like we have already seen API / you can say like maybe your nodes, right? /v1. This is your API version v1 and namespace, whether it is namespace related or not, you can say like true, false, whatever it is. Kind, the kind is type of resource again, right? These are resource name, and this is kind of resource you are going to create. Kind of resource is what, guys? We have already seen different kinds of resources, right? Which is deployments, your replica set, your daemon set, right? Now you see pod, persistent volume claims, node, namespace if you want to create namespace, event, endpoints, config map if you want to create config maps, right? So this is how each of the resources are formed, right? So these are like your resources. Earlier what we have seen, the groups and the endpoints. Now you are seeing from the groups and the endpoints how you are going to create the resources. So basically your Kubernetes is formed with various kinds of API APIs on the backend, and you need to understand each API is doing or creating a resource for us. So in simpler terms, each API is creating a resource at the end, right? That is what the important purpose is, right? So custom resource definition, right? That is what you are creating a resource which is not present here, which is not present in the Kubernetes. It means custom made means handmade or team made, you can say like that. And this is, you are creating a custom resource. Resource is nothing but these kind of resources. I can create a resource of Praveen also, which does a particular task, and definition basically, right? So I hope you are making it sense. Custom resource definition is nothing but whatever you are seeing here, which Kubernetes is defaultly providing the resources. We will not use that. We will create a new resource on top of that, which we are going to use. Now, what is the new resource here? Praveen is the new resource here. Praveen is the new resource here, which is having, let's take some V1 endpoint, and it will have some short name. Let's take PR, right, which is not there here. And you can have any kind of name, right, and true and false, right? And this will be accessed with the help of like API/Praveen/V1, right? Like that. Understood? I hope you are making it sense. Let's go ahead and see what are the other things are there. In this slides you will able to understand. Now, Kubernetes custom resource definition, that's where I was talking about. All these pointers are here. Now, what are custom resources? Very, very simple. Custom resources are extensions of Kubernetes API. That is what I told you, right? Now, API/Praveen/IO.io/V1. This Praveen.io is an API inside Kubernetes, which is not there, but we are going to create, right? At the end, that is what our need is. Now, custom resources are extensions of Kubernetes API, but unlike a normal resource are pods, nodes, deployments, replica sets, right? We will create something resource like kind as Praveen. Can I create a kind as Praveen? No, but if I have a custom resource definition, I can create kind as Praveen also, right? And it is not necessarily available, so we will be making it available, right? Custom resources are instead registered dynamically to a cluster. Once the custom resource is definition, end users can create, update, deletes its object using kubectl. Now, kubectl, if I say kubectl get Praveen, right? Now, just imagine, guys, custom resource definition is nothing but you are just creating a new resource or new object in the Kubernetes where you can do various kinds of actions. Kubectl get Praveen, kubectl delete Praveen, kubectl maybe edit Praveen, right? You can do all those things. So similarly, whatever the functions you are doing on the pod is basically a Kubernetes given one. Praveen is basically you are creating, right? I hope I am making it sense, right? Custom resources. Now you see what are custom resource definitions. CRDs enable IT admins to introduce unique objects or types into Kubernetes cluster to meet their requirement. Now, a Kubernetes custom resource definition acts like any Kubernetes object. So similarly, your Kubernetes objects are your Praveen pod, everything, right? And resources are similar to that, right? Resources and definition, custom resource definition. See, resources is basically Praveen pod and everything. Custom resources is nothing but Praveen, right? Resources are pod. I am again repeating, resources are pod or deployment or daemon set. Custom resources like Praveen or Hello or or you can say like Mac or any kind of thing, right? So you can see a Kubernetes custom resource definition acts like any other custom resource object, Kubernetes object. It uses all the features of Kubernetes ecosystem. For example, the command line interface, like I told you, kubectl get pods, right? Similarly, kubectl, you can say like get Praveen, right? So you can understand like when I use kind as custom resource definition, and I can say like name, right? I can say like Praveen, right? So this custom resource definition is creating my my resource of name Praveen, right? I hope making it sense. And this will be coming as when you hit kubectl get you can say like API-resources or kubectl API-resources, you will see Praveen under that, right? So we are just creating a new endpoint for our Kubernetes cluster. So new endpoint is like Praveen.io, very simple, Praveen.io. And in this, I will be having like kubectl create Praveen. So this is my resource. And this is my custom definition. You can understand like that. Okay, I am making it sense, right? So let's go ahead. Let me clear these drawings. So what do you have in the next few slides, in the coming up slides? Now, very, very much important, this picture I have kept in order to make you understand like what exactly is basically custom resource definition or built-in resources, right? Now you see there are three things here: built-in resources, aggregated APIs, and custom resources. Very, very much important. Now, built-in resources, which Kubernetes has already given to us. Kubernetes gave us already, right? Very much important, right? Now, what are the other things? Now you see built-in resources, API/v1, and you see there are two resources here. One is pod, one is node, right? And you see kind, resource means kind node, resource means kind pod, right? Name, you can say any, like any name. And this basically purple is basically namespace in this diagram. Okay, namespace, and this is resource. Okay, so you see when I say API/v1/nodes, it means it will be a kind node. When I say API/v1/namespaces under 4, right, pods, it means I'm accessing the kind as pod, right? So this pod and node, I hope everyone knows these are built in. So I will tell again, built in resource. Right now, what are custom resource? See what are custom resource, guys. Here, if I'm making inlets.dev/v1 alpha1, so it is basically an API. Under this API, I am creating a kind tunnels. So guys, if you are with me and if you have watched the video till this point of time, tell me if you have seen any time the tunnels, kubectl get tunnels, kubectl delete tunnels. No, right? So here I am creating a kind of tunnel, and when I want a kind of tunnel for specific work to be done, right, that's where I create a custom resource definition, and this is my resource as tunnel, right? And this is my API. Correct? Clear, everyone? API/inlets.dev v1 alpha1, and you see this is basically my resource, right? API objects basically, right? And if you see there is something like API groups, these are called API groups, whatever you are seeing, right? API/v1, whatever the green one you are seeing are groups, and these are resources. As I've told you, the tunnels, the pods, the CRDs, right? Kind, when you want to create a new custom resource definition, you have to give kind as custom resource definition. And you see these are resources, the flunders, the tunnels, the pods, the nodes, right? Blue represents resource, right? And the green represents your APIs, right? API groups, you can say like API groups, and you can say like violet represents your namespace. Okay, this is very much important in order to understand what we are exactly doing. Now, API object collections are this one, right? This one, right? I hope I am making it sense. There is an aggregated API. This aggregated API helps us to use multiple APIs together. So when we want to use multiple APIs together, then we are going to use this particular aggregated APIs. But as of now, our main task is custom resource definition. Now, let me just tell you like how the manifest file of custom resource definition look like. So custom resource definition kind, and you say like name, and you say like properties, guys. Properties, very, very important. Now, how these properties are coming in? Name is like, let's take Praveen. Now, because this is an object, the Praveen should be associated with some attributes, right? So what are those? Let's take ID, let's take data, let's take hello, right? These are attributes of Praveen, correct or not? So that is why when you create a kind as Praveen, right, in the metadata or the spec, you need to specify ID colon, what is that? Data source colon, and what is this basically? Some key values you need to assign. So this will be taken by this, and then the pod deployment happens. If you have any doubts, okay, if anyone has any doubts, let me clear everything in a little bit of time. Let's go ahead. And now you are seeing a very basic funda of the Kubernetes. That is your Kubernetes architecture. Why I have kept this is having the entire architecture here. Now you already know that this is your control node, control plane on the left hand side, and this is your worker node on the right hand side. And what the each component is doing, I have just written it so that you understand. Control manager runs all built-in controllers like node controller, replication controller. And you see API server is what? It is our input to our Kubernetes cluster, tracking state of all cluster components and managing interactions between them, right? Scheduler distributes unscheduled workloads across the available worker nodes. So everything is watching at your API server only. See, and you see at CD, we have already discussed what is database, reads and writes from the database, right? Two-way changes. Cluster domain name system, DNS, provides in-cluster DNS for pod services usually provided using core-DNS K8s plugin. Okay. Now you see what are worker nodes component, kube proxy, kubelet, and container runtime. The kubelet uses container runtime, right? And you see runtime that implements custom resource, what is not custom resource, basically container runtime interface, right? Or CRIO or container D. So these all are latest things which are there in the Kubernetes. So you need to make sure you know this. So container runtime basically takes all the data from your containers, right? And it keeps the data with it, right? Kube proxy basically manages network connections to the nodes, pods, and everything. And you see cloud control manager talks with the cloud APIs, right? So this is your control plane, and this is your worker node or control node and worker node. Very, very much important. 4 components: API server, scheduler, control manager, and HCD. Cluster DNS is a part, but these are main components. And here also 1, 2, 3, and you can say like pod also one more component, 4, right? So these all things we have already discussed. Now let's go ahead and see like what exactly is there for you. Now, a very simple thing I would like to tell you, like what exactly this is. Now see, be with me, okay? Now, there is a use case to create a custom resource definition. Use case for custom resource definition is example I am telling, okay? This example we will do as an hands-on, so don't worry, okay? Don't worry. Now, use case for custom resource definition. There is an IT operations team wants to build an CI/CD platform, okay? They want to build an CI/CD platform and expose it as a Kubernetes custom resource definition, okay? Now, this custom resource requires a user input to build and deploy. So what are user inputs, guys? We need to build and deploy the application, correct, on top of the Kubernetes. The first section of the tutorial below displays the minimum input required for the setup. Now, what are the inputs for the resource we want to create? App ID, code language, OS, instance change, environment, and replicas. These are some things which are very, very much helpful for your Kubernetes pod to deploy, right? So let me show you one interesting thing here, right? So what are the 4 components? Why these 4 components are there? What it is telling? My resource should take inputs, right? So at the end, what are the inputs for the pod, guys? What are the inputs for the pod? CPU, the memory, if you have replica set, if you have scaling, so all those things are input to the pod. Similarly, what are the input to this custom resource definition? So let's go and see my screen here. Okay, let me show you a basic custom resource definition example from my GitHub. So you will be able to understand that is what we will be doing as an hands-on going ahead. Okay, so let me show you repositories. Okay, let me clear first the screen. We have still 10 or 8 more minutes of time. Okay, so that is the reason I'm showing this. But yeah, we will do this as an hands-on in the going classes. So let me come here, custom. And meanwhile, you can follow me here and the GitHub. Any changes you will come to know. Okay, so you see custom resource definition. If I want to create a custom resource definition, you see crd.yaml, right? And let me bring it down. Yeah, so you see crd.yaml, guys. What is my API version group? API extensions _ch.io. I told you where you have seen in the slide. Let me connect you the dots from the slide. Where was the slide, guys? Yeah. So let me take back to you. API groups, you remember? Okay, sorry. Slideshow. If you remember, there was an API group, right? Where was it? API extensions _ch.io. So we are using this API group in our custom resource kind. I told you, right? Kind is custom resource definition in Kubernetes. And name myplatforms.contoso.com, anything. Specification group, guys. So are you understanding what is at the end you are getting? So group, you remember? API/group/version, right? You remember? That is what we are forming. And you see names, what type of names I need, right? What kind of kind. So kind name is what, guys? My platform. Here I am creating. Okay, guys, I hope I am not making you this one. So we are creating a custom resource definition of resource name, my platform. So you will be seeing, if I call kubectl get my platform, right? Then you will see something like this. You will get all the data, right? So short name is what? kubectl get myp. If you give the resources under this, you will get it, right? I hope I am making it sense. And what are the versions, guys? V1 alpha 1. You are understanding, right? Group is contoso.com/v1 alpha 1. Right? So how the output will look like? Something like contoso.com/v1/alpha1/ you will see something like my platform. Okay, that is what we are doing, right? So if you see in the slides, in the slide 2, what is this basically in the slide 2? If I show you slide diagram, right? API/v1. So there API/contoso.com/ you will see resource is my platform. Clear, everyone? I hope I am making it sense. But as you see, like hands-on, you will be able to understand. And this my platform will have what are and namespace. Yes or no? You remember in the kubectl kubectl API resources, you see namespace, whether it is true or false. It is true, right? So that is how we give. And if you see what is the schema, right? Type is object, properties of the object, guys. App ID, language type is string. Similarly, how you create an object, right, in Python or in Java, right? When you create an object in any coding language, what you give? You give the object attributes, correct? You give, suppose you are creating an object of car. What do you give? The car has 4 wheels, type number of wheels, right? Number of, maybe you can say number of wheels. These are attributes. Color of car, right? Mileage of car, right? Similarly, you see what was my requirement? App ID I should have, language I should have, OS type I should have, correct? So that is how the Kubernetes creates the custom resources for you. Let me clear the screen. I will finally touch base on what exactly you need to understand, right? So you see everything is required, guys. App ID, language, environment type. So what I am creating, have you ever seen? Okay, let me summarize this. Okay, let me summarize what we have done till now. With this, you will able to understand. Okay. We have seen what is custom resource definition, right? In Kubernetes, we have seen Kubernetes architecture, right? Kubernetes architecture. We have seen what is basically your various API groups, right? And your versions, right? And we have seen how you create a custom resource definition, right? So you have to use kind of custom resource definition in Kubernetes, right? And the kind will have a name. Name can be, you can say like my platform, right? And this my platform is what, guys? We already seen it is an object. And I already told you this object will have some attributes, right? So what were the attributes of the my object? It was having like name, you can say like app ID, and the type of the app ID is string, right? So similarly, you would have seen like environment, OS type, and everything. So now once the custom resource has been created, you can call like kubectl get, you can say like my platform. It will give you all the details. Now, when I say kind, now custom resource has been created. How I will use to create the object from the custom resource, right? So resource I have created, and this you can consider like a resource or an object. Now, from a resource, I'm going to create an object, right? So basically, you can consider this as a resource. From this resource, I'm going to create an object. So what is my kind here? Kind is my platform, right? And this kind will have some specifications where I need to give name, type, OS, and everything. Okay, I hope I am making it sense. Any doubts, any queries, comment down in the comment section, and I will be very much happy to answer all your queries. I hope day 4 is very, very good, and you will see a little bit of your hands-on in the coming days on this. Very, very simple hands-on and very straightforward hands-on you will see. I hope you are liking the content. Like the video, share the channel link with your friends. Target is 30K subscribers with the next 1 week. So I hope you will make that thing happening. And this document I will be adding on the description, so you can check out that. And thank you all. all for joining this session. Day 5 and day 6 are almost done, and I will be sharing all those details to you. See you all in the next video. Take care. Bye. This is Singham signing off.